This is the story of a Canadian hockey team in search of a world title. This is the dramatic story of Whitby Dunlops, representing Canada, traveling the broad Atlantic in Cunard's giant Queen Elizabeth to keep a rendezvous in Oslo, Norway, with the crack national teams of Europe. Hardly had the nose of this beautiful ship nudged into her berth at Southampton when the boys, neat and natty, in eye-catching hats and coats, were hustling down the gangplanks to take their first look at England. 4 hours later, the Whitby Dunlop players were out practicing at Haringey Arena, London, and the news flashed through Europe that Canada had sent one of its most colorful and talented teams on the specific mission of ending Europe's 2-year reign over international hockey. On to Oslo, on to that hockey showdown with Sweden, with Czechoslovakia, with the USA, and last but far from least with the mighty USSR. The high-stepping Dunnies had rolled through England, Switzerland, and Sweden with ease and without loss, and had tuned into international rules in a 2-game exhibition with the RCF Flyers stationed at Zweibrücken. Tension was rising as the Whitby team neared Oslo. The Dunnies had played a Russian team in Toronto and had won. But they had seen these flying Ruskies beat some of the top teams in Canada. Ren Blair, the astute manager, and his boys knew that in a world title tussle where each game was sudden death, anything could happen. One slip, one false move, a lost temper, an accidental trip, a knee, or an elbow in the height of play could lose them a world championship. The flags of 26 nations fly in the Arctic winds as 7,000 robust hockey fans plow through the heavy snowstorm into the Jordal Amphi Stadium to see His Majesty King Olav V of Norway take the skate pass of the 8 competing nations, with Sweden as the reigning champions leading the procession. Then Canada. That snow must be worrying the Canadians plenty. Poland, a team without a chance, but a country sold on Canadian hockey. The Russians, Europe's bet for the world title.
Soviet surrenders, Soviet Union.
Czechoslovakia, rated highly by all Canadian observers. USA, unpredictable. Norway, the host nation with a king who enjoys his hockey. The teams line up and the stage is set to open the World Hockey Championships of 1958.
President of the International Ice Hockey Federation, Mr. J.F. Ahern.
J.F. Bunny Ahern calls on His Majesty immediately behind him to officially open the World Championship.
It's a great honor to have with us this evening His Majesty the King of Norway, who has so graciously consented to open the championships for us.
Med disse ord erklærer jeg verdensmesterskapet 1958 for åpning.
Is old man weather ganging up on this World Series? Snow is falling fast and heavy, and the snowplow is working overtime to get the ice cleared for Canada's match against Norway. What do you say we drop down into the dressing room and meet some of the Dunnies? Roy Edwards, young goalie with a fine pair of hands. Frank Bonello, fine two-way skater. Ted O'Connor, defenseman, rugged, hard-hitting. Gordon Miles, a natural scorer. Buzz Gagnon, big, fast, plenty of savvy. Alf Treen, a tough boy to get around. George Samolenko, dangerous in close. Bob Addersley, the man who leaves this boy uncovered at the crease, is crazy. Harry Sinden, captain and inspiring holler guy. Sid Smith, ex-Maple Leaf star, player coach and sprinkled with stardust. George Goslin, stylish and smooth. Ed Richmond, a reliable standby, the veteran of the team at 32. Charlie Burns, a hustler, perpetual motion on ice. Jack McKenzie, the man with the shot. Stan Whalett, trainer and griller of steaks par excellence, they say. Stick Boy, unofficial, incognito, a great booster to have around. Ren Blair, a good talker, a good manager. They don't come any shrewder. Wally Braben, assistant trainer. Fred Etcher, even a broken leg couldn't keep him away. Long John Henderson, standby goalie with a 4-star rating. Norway was not expected to give Canada much trouble, and she didn't. But it was a proud moment for these determined Norwegians to meet the Canadians and hitch their wagons to the stars. The World Championship has its own games anthem, played before each match with both teams facing each other and at attention. Canada is on the right, wearing black and yellow sweaters with Dunlop Whitby on the front, Canada on the back, and the whole sweater dotted with maple leaves. King Olav V and 4,500 rooting Norwegians are on hand to cheer the home team to the full. His Majesty saw Norway take a 12-0 beating, but enthuses on the way Norway never gives up. Canada takes nothing for granted. Goal averages could decide the winner of the world title. Goal number 11 is a good piece of work with Buzz Gagnon scoring through a mass of legs from a pass by Attaboy Addersley. The crowd roar the Norwegians on, but Canada swarms to the attack and are in and around the Norwegian goal so often that the puck-slappy netminder should be seeing Canadians in his nightmares for the rest of his life. Sid Smith and Jack McKenzie are goal-hungry. Both get 3 and are hunting down a 4th with no luck. Broden is hitting posts, Samolenko is shooting wild, and manager Blair is having cat fits, seeing open nets that his boys are missing but shouldn't. Addersley makes the boss feel a bit better when he takes Samolenko's pass to score the 12th and final goal just 2 minutes from time. Now with Poland and Norway in the bag, the boys vote for a change of scenery. Away with hockey, taxi to the Royal Palace, please. They don't come any friendlier than Charlie Burns and Ted O'Connor. And the guards are not holding Canada's pasting of Norway against them, so they talk and they laugh. Jean-Paul Lamourand likes the guard's hat. Canadian-Norwegian relations are getting a real boost. Well, the fooling is over. No more pushovers. Every Canadian home and abroad have them in focus as they now skate out against Sweden, the reigning champs. The stadium is full of Swedes who have come by plane, train, and car to see their top team try to topple Canada. Like the crack of the whip, Canada attack. Before Sweden can say jeepers, Sid Smith gallops in to take Harry Sinden's pass and fire to the far corner for Canada's first goal. Lundvall wraps himself around Jack McKenzie. Judo may be one way of stopping these fast-moving Canadians. Canada keep cool and stay on the puck. The Swedes are finding it hard to hold the Dunnies as they mill around the goal, sidestepping, weaving, and shooting. The whole team is purring when Tom O'Connor latches onto a two-way pass from Burns and Lamourand to make the score 2-0. The alert referee checks the number to record the scoring. This game is in the bag, but the scoring spree goes on when Smith tips in Lamourand's shot from the point. Then, big Bjorn, number 4, must have realized a Boston Bruins scout was in the stand, for he starts to swing his weight. He jams. He rams. He trips. Again. And again. Peterson, Lundvall, and Nelson combined to open Sweden's account at the 6:20 mark. Canada won this one 10-2 after a little bit of everything. Canada's back checking is one of the highlights of this game. They're really on the puck. Forechecking all the time. Well, the game's over. There's been a few fights, but there's no hard feelings. The game ended, all was peace, and all were pals. Why, hello, son. Aren't you in the wrong neck of the woods? 9 out of 10 Canadian experts will tell you they think the Czechs are the best hockey players in Europe, man for man, pound for pound. Substance was being added to this point of view when the Czechs the day before, this reckoning with Canada, tied Russia 4-4. Harry Sinden is a bit surprised when the Czech captain breaks ranks to hand the Canadian captain a pennant, an old continental custom. While Gagnon sits it out, opportunist Connie Broden takes Mackenzie's pass to put Canada up 2-0. Czechs find the going rough as they hit the blue line. Mackenzie, Burns, and Goslin are zooming in and out. The team battles the Czechs through a scoreless second. Makes the score 3-0 on a pass from Burns. They're a happy lot. Sinden makes it 4. Goslin makes it 5. The Czechs never let up, though the battle has been lost. The Dunnies step up the pressure. They're a happy lot of warriors. The taste of victory and a third goose egg for Edwards gives them wings. But they're not easing up. The defense is still tough. Check into the boards. Still they come. And here's Goose Goslin sinking the 6th and final goal. Well assisted by Burns and Tom O'Connor. Canada are beating Czechoslovakia 6-0. Still they come, and it's here where Czech goalie draws attention to his great ability. Dunny's manager, even in the full sway of the game, was reported to have muttered, "That kid in goal for the Czechs is one of the best netminders I have ever seen." Young Yuroslav Narchel had plenty to do. He handled 47 shots to Edwards' 14, and most of them were hot. Well, this hard-fought, well-won game is over. 350 Canadian soldiers and airmen from their bases in Germany liked everything they saw of their first match of the series. All hockey and no hooky is bad for world title seekers. So, the action a la Sid Smith and the subject matter speaks louder than words. And now, back to work. Now for the USA. The Americans, with 4 players on the injured list, could only field a skeleton team. Their star, John Mayasich, was out with pulled ligaments in the shoulder. The sun shone bright, and Canada goes to the end allotted to them before the game. But the Americans insist on tossing 4 ends. And Canada loses the first decision so far of the series. They lose the toss, and Edwards faces the sun. Crippled and undermanned as they were, the Americans showed the old fighting spirit. Rigazio in the American net is in top form, and in the words of the U.S. coach, if it hadn't been for him, we might have cashed 20 goals. Canada's playing a forechecking pattern. They never let the Americans break. Does this boy Burns ever slow down? Fast, big, a great stick handler. The Continental fans rate him as sensational. Samolenko wastes no time in starting the trek to victory when, unassisted, he finds a hole in Rigacio's armor just 1 minute and 40 seconds from the start.
First goal was scored by player number 14.
Canada won.
Samolenko.
Canada's defense is like a stone wall. The tiring Americans can't jump it, can't go through it. Each time they try, they're bumped by Treen, Lamrand, and... boy, did you see O'Connor get one of them. The Americans are tiring. The undermanned team is showing the strain, and Canada piles up the score. Blair has driven home the importance of goals, goals, goals. The title could be determined that way. Miles puts Addersley through to boost the score to 7-1. This was Connie Broden's afternoon out. The classy centerman put 4 pucks behind Rigaccio.
Player number 15, Bobby Addersley.
The Americans are tiring. There's no doubt about it. Canada's setting an awful pace. The loyal supporters are egging them on. The Americans have lost all hope of making a showing in this game. With the score 12-1, Marvin is only hoping no one else gets hurt so that he can field a team for tomorrow's game. The forwards have eased up, leaving the job of keeping the Americans out to the defensemen. Here's Ted O'Connor taking a breather. A 4-star performer all the way. See that one? Johnnies like to hit, and they're hitting well in this game against America. Ren Blair, Canada's manager, dies a little in every game. He's a worrier. Even if the boys are good, he wants them better. Well, there's the score. Canada 12, USA 1. Those who stake their all on Canada are more than happy. Well, this is it. Canada v. Russia.
Fiction Ice Hockey Association wish you all welcome to the last and deciding match in this championship between Canada and Soviet.
The last game of the World Championships. And the title hinging on the outcome. A packed stadium, Russians from Moscow, Canadians from Whitby, RCAF airmen from Zweibrücken, soldiers from the Canadian Armed Forces in Zush, Germany, and headquarters London. The Canadians were the first to attack, but Tregubov cleared Gagno's shot. The Russians counterattacked, and Cherpanov's shot skims over the net. How those Russians can skate. Their hustling style seems to be throwing the dunnies out of gear. Canada is feeling her way, trying to iron out